You've been asleep with your eyes wide open, dreaming like the world owes you a damn hug, walking through hell expecting flowers to bloom under your feet just because you've got a soft heart and a clean conscience. But here's the truth. Life doesn't care. It doesn't care how kind you were, how loyal you stayed, or how much you gave. You could pour your soul into people and still end up empty. You could bleed for them and they'd still watch you die. That's reality, kid. And the sooner you swallow that bitter pill, the faster you'll stop being a toy in their game. You think you're good? You think being nice buys you safety? Being nice gets you used, gets you broken, gets you forgotten. You keep holding on to this fantasy that someday someone's gonna come and rescue you. Wake up. No one's coming. No one ever was. The world teaches through pain, not comfort. And if you're still waiting for peace, you'll die waiting. People change when they hurt enough. And you're on the edge, aren't you? One more betrayal, one more lie, and you're gone. But listen to me. That edge, it's not your end. It's your weapon. Use it. Let me guess. You kept it real with fake people. Gave them loyalty they never earned, love they never returned, time they never deserved. You kept answering calls that drained you. You kept showing up for people who vanished when it was your turn to need. That's how the world breaks you. Not all at once, slowly, bit by bit, day by day. It feeds off your silence, your patience, your hope, and in return, nothing. They don't remember the nights you stayed up listening. They don't recall the favors. They don't count your sacrifices. They only remember the one time you said no. That's when you become the villain in their story. That's when your silence becomes suspicious. Your peace becomes threatening. Because people aren't loyal to you. They're loyal to their needs. The second you stop feeding them, you're disposable. That's not paranoia. That's math. That's statistics. Look around you. Who calls you when they don't need anything? Who checks on you with no hidden reason? Who shows up just to say, I'm here if you fall? Not many. Maybe none. You're chasing shadows, chasing closure, chasing respect from people who don't respect themselves. You keep looking for love in war zones, wondering why all you get is wounds. You want to heal? Stop begging for medicine from the ones who poisoned you. You've been taught to be silent, told to forgive, to move on, to not make a scene. But silence is not healing. It's pressure. And pressure bursts pipes. You're not weak. You're exploding. You've held in too much. And now look at you. Exhausted. Angry. Done. You want justice in a world that thrives on injustice. You want loyalty in a sea of opportunists. You want meaning in a society that worships the meaningless. That's why you feel crazy. That's why it all feels wrong. Because it is. You're not broken. You're awake. You're seeing the filth, the masks, the games. You're seeing the truth. And truth hurts. It strips you naked. But it also frees you. So, here's your choice. Keep suffering, trying to fix what's beyond saving, or burn it all. Let go. Cut ties. Stop explaining yourself to people who already decided to misunderstand you. Stop watering dead plants. Stop carrying the guilt they threw at you to hide their own. Wake up. This world eats the soft. If you want to survive, if you want peace, you'll have to build it with scars. You've been taught to keep your head down. Keep the peace. Don't question. Just swallow the pain, smile through the lies, and call it maturity. But maturity isn't silence. It's awareness. It's knowing when something's killing you and walking away, even if you're limping. You thought being good would protect you, huh? You thought if you just loved hard enough, stayed patient long enough, people would finally treat you right. But what did you get? You became the dumping ground for their excuses, the punching bag for their moods, the fallback when their better options failed. That's the reward for being real in a fake world. You got stabbed with the very sword you handed them in trust. And when you cried, they called you dramatic. When you withdrew, they called you distant. When you finally snapped, they called you toxic. Because the second you stopped serving their peace, you became a threat to their comfort. That's the game. That's how it works. They train you to betray yourself, and when you finally refuse, they call you the problem. It's not just betrayal, it's assassination of character, of dignity, of worth. And you stood there, thinking maybe if you explain yourself better, maybe if you try harder, maybe if you just wait, they'll see. But they won't, because they never wanted to. They saw you the whole time. They just knew you'd never leave. That was your real sin, being too loyal in a world that worships convenience. You've been lied to, conditioned, brainwashed. They made you believe that your value comes from how useful you are to others, that your worth depends on how much you give, how much you endure, that love means tolerating disrespect in silence, that patience means allowing yourself to be walked over repeatedly until there's nothing left of you. And you bought it, didn't you? You bought it because you wanted to believe people were good. You wanted to believe love would win. You thought if you gave them everything, they'd finally give you something back. But they didn't. They took and took and took until you were unrecognizable in the mirror. Now look at you, second-guessing yourself, questioning your worth, wondering if you were the problem. No, you weren't. You just played a game that was rigged from the start. You fought with honesty in a war of manipulation. You tried to save people who didn't want saving. They just wanted a soft place to crash while they destroyed themselves. And you were the shelter, the light, the loyal fool. But you're not a fool anymore, are you? That fire in your chest, that ache in your soul, it's not weakness, it's rage, and it's beautiful. Because that's the moment you're reborn. That's when you stop surviving and start becoming dangerous. Not violent, dangerous. As in, you finally know who you are. As in, They can't use your kindness against you anymore. As in, you've been through hell, and now you're using the flames to forge a blade. You're not meant to stay broken. You're not supposed to heal into silence. You're meant to rise, cold, focused, untouchable. Not because the world owes you justice, but because you owe yourself peace. You think walking away makes you a coward? Number. It makes you free. It makes you sane. It makes you a survivor in a war where everyone else is busy pretending they're happy while their souls rot in silence. You're different. You feel too much. Think too deep. That's your gift and your curse. Because while others sleepwalk through life, you see, and seeing hurts, but it also arms you. You can't be betrayed the same way twice when you finally admit they never respected you. You can't be hurt the same way when you finally stop expecting decency from the indecent. So stop apologizing for growing cold. That coldness, that's what kept you alive. That's your armor. That's your clarity. Wake up to reality. No more sugarcoating. No more excuses. No more, maybe they'll change. They won't, but you can. You can become the storm they never saw coming. You can become the silence that makes them choke. You can become the person they'll regret losing every single night they're left alone with their guilt. But first, you've got to kill the version of you that stayed soft for the wrong ones. Burn it, mourn it, and never look back. You remember all those nights you stayed up thinking about what you did wrong? All those days you replayed every word, every moment, every silence, trying to decode their behavior like it was your failure written in invisible ink? That was never your burden. You took responsibility for their mess because you were raised to believe that love fixes people. That if you just hold on, if you just understand them more, if you give them one more chance, they'll finally be the version of themselves you believed in. But what if I told you that version never existed? What if I told you that the person you loved was just a mask they wore when they needed you? And the second they found comfort in your chaos, they dropped it. See, people don't change overnight. They just stop pretending. They stop hiding who they really are. And the minute they saw you weren't going anywhere, the respect vanished. Because people value mystery more than presence. They respect silence more than availability. And they chase what they can't have while ignoring what's always there. You gave too much, too fast, too often. And they called it boring, predictable, replaceable. Not because you were, but because they weren't capable of depth. So don't let their inability to love make you question your ability to feel. You weren't too much. They were just too little. And now you sit here, heart like rubble, still carrying the weight of their absence like it was a punishment. But here's what they don't tell you. The absence of someone who couldn't love you right is a gift in disguise. It's peace wearing the costume of loss. You think you're suffering, because they left. But what you're really feeling is detox, withdrawal. You're shedding the illusion that they were ever worthy of your presence in the first place. You see, heartbreak doesn't come from losing them. It comes from losing the version of yourself that believed they were home. It hurts because you're watching your old self die. The one who believed, hoped, trusted, and that's grief. But grief is just the price of clarity, and clarity is power. It's seeing the battlefield for what it is, not what you wished it was. So let the pain teach you. Let it burn you clean. Let it carve a silence inside you so sharp it becomes a sword. You don't need revenge. You don't need closure. You just need to never go back. That's the real revenge, becoming everything they were too blind to see. Let them live with the ghost of what they lost. You've got war to win. You've got a future to build, and no dead weight is worth carrying into that future. You thought the world was fair? You thought if you stayed real, you'd be rewarded? Nah. The world doesn't operate on justice. It runs on leverage, on power, on silence and restraint. You think screaming your pain will make people care? No. It makes them entertained. People don't sympathize with your struggle. They feed on it. They pass it around in whispers. They turn your heartbreak into gossip, your breakdown into amusement. You cry and they scroll. You suffer and they sip coffee. That's why you gotta go silent. Not because you're weak, but because you're dangerous when you're quiet. Silence is your weapon now. It keeps them guessing. It starves their curiosity. It robs them of control. They expect a reaction. Give them emptiness. They expect a breakdown. Give them discipline. They expect tears. Give them distance. Watch how it kills them. Not all at once, but slowly. They'll keep checking, keep waiting, hoping for the old you to come back. The soft one, the forgiving one, the one who answered every call, explained every feeling. But that version, he's dead. You buried him the day you realized not everyone deserves access to your heart. That's growth. That's evolution. That's when pain becomes purpose. And if you do it right, they'll feel your absence louder than your presence ever screamed. You ever notice how the ones who break you are always the ones who swore they never would? They look you dead in the eye and promise loyalty, beg for your trust. And when you finally hand over the keys to your soul, they leave the door wide open for chaos to walk in. That's not love. That's manipulation wrapped in pretty words. And you were too genuine to see the mask slip, too honest to expect betrayal. That's what makes it cut deeper. Not just that they left, but how they did it. Quietly, carelessly, without explanation, without apology, like you were a chapter they got bored of, like you didn't bleed for them. That's the part that haunts you. That's what keeps you awake. The silence, the lack of closure. But let me tell you something cold and true. Closure is a scam. It's the carrot they dangle in front of your pain so you keep chasing people who already proved they don't care. You want closure? Close the door yourself. Don't wait for a final conversation. Don't wait for them to come back crawling. Don't wait for the apology they'll never craft. That's your job now. You give yourself peace. You give yourself the goodbye they were too cowardly to say. And you turn that pain into the fuel that sets your entire old life on fire. You see, the world doesn't reward the ones who love the hardest. It rewards the ones who adapt, who learn, who harden. You can cry all night and scream into the void and beg the skies for justice, but it won't come until you stop being the victim and start being the architect. The world ain't kind. It's calculative. It doesn't give you what you deserve. It gives you what you demand. You want respect? Then stop asking for it. Command it. By your actions, by your energy, by the way you disappear without a word and come back unrecognizable. Let your absence be the scream that echoes in their guilt. Let your silence tell the story your words never could. That's how you win. Not by arguing, not by explaining, but by rebuilding. In silence, in private, in pain. You see, pain teaches faster than praise ever will. Pain sharpens you. It burns away the weakness. It kills the illusions. And it leaves behind the version of you that doesn't beg. He builds. He doesn't cry. He calculates. And when he walks into a room, he doesn't need to raise his voice. His presence says everything. That's the man you become when you finally wake up to reality. Not the soft fool begging to be loved. Not the broken mess hoping for closure. But the quiet threat. The one they never saw coming. You think healing means going back to who you were before the pain? Healing means becoming someone who will never be that naive again. It means building walls, not because you hate the world, but because you finally know what you're worth. You don't let everyone in. You don't explain your silence. You don't answer every call. You don't give second chances to people who fumbled the first one like it was a game. You move like a ghost, seen only when you choose to be, felt in your absence, feared in your growth. You don't waste time anymore, because now time is your currency. Energy is your weapon. Peace is your revenge. And they get to watch from a distance, confused, regretful, ashamed, because the same heart they played with is now untouchable. The same soul they took for granted is now unavailable. That's the reality check they'll never recover from. That's what happens when the quiet one finally stops caring. You were never the weak one. You were the loyal one. The one who stayed. The one who gave. The one who fought. And now, you're the one who left. And trust me, that silence, that's the loudest scream they'll ever hear. They say time heals all wounds, but that's a lie told by people too scared to admit the scars never go away. Time doesn't heal, truth does. And the truth is brutal. The truth is that some people never loved you. They loved what you did for them. They loved your effort, your consistency, your sacrifices, not your soul. And once they drained you dry, they walked away like you were just another stop on their journey. No thank you, no explanation, just gone. And you were left behind, not just with the silence, but with questions. Was I not enough? Did I do something wrong? Let me answer that for you. No. You were too much for a heart that was never ready. You were fire, and they were built from paper. It was never about you lacking. It was about them fearing your depth. People like that don't want love. They want control. And when they can't control you anymore, when your light starts to shine too bright, they run. Not because you hurt them, but because you exposed them. You reminded them of everything they weren't. That's why they left. Not because you failed, but because you threatened their comfort. And that's not on you. That's their weakness, not your worth. But now you've got a choice. You either let that pain rot inside you, or you turn it into power. You either cry yourself to sleep hoping they come back, or you wake up cold and focused, building a life so solid they can't even knock at the door anymore. This world doesn't need more soft hearts waiting to be saved. It needs more sharp minds ready to cut through the lies. More calm storms who don't scream, they strike. You want to win? Then stop explaining yourself to people who can't hear past their ego. Stop trying to be understood by the very ones who misunderstood you on purpose. They heard you the first time. They just didn't care. You were too available, too consistent, too loyal. They thought you'd never leave. Now make sure they never forget that you did, and not with rage, not with drama, but with silence that screams you no longer exist in my world. Because when you finally stop chasing closure and start choosing peace, that's when the tables turn. That's when your absence becomes their daily reminder of how badly they fumbled. And you gotta stop romanticizing pain like it's a badge of honor. Stop thinking that suffering in silence makes you stronger. Real strength isn't how much pain you can endure. It's how fast you cut off what's killing you. It's how ruthless you can be with your peace. You want to grow? Start deleting people who drain you. Stop giving explanations. You don't owe anyone your story. If they cared, they'd have stayed. If they were real, they'd have shown up. Stop hoping. Start building. Quietly. Deadly. Let your new life be the punchline to every joke they made about you. Let your growth haunt the ones who doubted you, because that's the real revenge. Becoming what they said you'd never be. And the best part? You do it alone. No applause, no recognition, just you, your scars, your discipline, and that fire in your chest that says, never again. Never again will I explain myself to the unworthy. Never again will I lower my standards for temporary affection. Never again will I trust words over patterns. From now on, you move different. You walk with your head high, heart guarded, soul intact. Because now you know. And that knowledge, that pain-born wisdom, is the sharpest weapon you'll ever carry. You ever wonder why they only come back when they feel you slipping away? Why they suddenly remember your worth when they see you smiling without them? It's not love, it's ego, it's panic, because your silence is louder than any fight you could have started. Your distance is a mirror showing them everything they did wrong, and they can't stand their reflection. They miss your comfort, not your soul. They miss your availability, not your heart. You see, people don't regret losing you. They regret losing their grip on you. That's the difference. And if you're smart, you won't fall for it. You won't respond to the I miss you texts. You won't react to the calls or the late night check-ins. Because once you've seen someone choose chaos over your love, once you've watched them destroy the peace you built just to feed their ego, you don't go back. You don't revisit graves looking for life. Let them miss you. Let them drown in the silence they created. Because if they cared, they would have fought for you before they lost you. Not after your absence hit like a bullet to the chest. You don't get to shatter someone and then act confused when they don't come back. Love isn't a boomerang. You throw it away, it doesn't return. And here's the real twist of the knife. The ones who broke you will act like you're the villain. They'll tell people you changed, that you got cold, that you disappeared, that you switched up. But they won't mention the nights you cried yourself to sleep. They won't tell the stories of how many times you forgave what you should have walked away from. They won't admit how they tested your patience like it was a game, how they watched you fall apart and turn their back like it didn't matter. No, they rewrite history to save their image, and that's fine. Let them. You don't need to defend yourself in rooms you don't sit in anymore. The truth always crawls back. And when it does, let it bite. You don't need to clear your name. Your peace will. Your success will. The way you move on without burning down everything behind you, that's the flex. That's the silence they'll never escape. And when people ask what happened, just smile and say, I woke up. That's all. No details, no pain, just growth. Because when you truly heal, the story changes. You stop talking about them, and you start talking about you. And now, it's about you. No more bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. No more explaining your worth to those who couldn't see it when it was right in front of them. You've given enough. You've cried enough. You've stayed too long in places that should have been exits. Loved too hard in situations that only taught you how to lose. But now you're different. You're colder, sharper, quieter. Not because the world broke you, but because it woke you. You've seen the truth, and once you see, you can't unsee. You can't go back to soft when reality slapped you with steel, and that's your power. That's the foundation you build from, brick by brick, scar by scar, silence by silence. You don't need applause. You don't need validation. You've already survived the worst. Now you just become the best. Quietly, deadly. Like a storm they forgot to fear. Let them laugh now. Let them talk. Because the day will come when they look around and realize you're nowhere to be found. Not in their life. Not in their reach. Not even in their memories the way they once mattered to you. That's the final win. Not revenge. Just distance. Just silence. Just peace. You know what the cruelest part of it all is? It's not the betrayal, not the lies, not even the loneliness that follows. It's the realization that they never saw you. Not really. Not the way you begged to be seen without ever speaking a word. You loved them in silence, showed up when it was inconvenient, stood by them through their storms, even when they were the ones creating them. You gave when you had nothing left. You stayed when every bone in your body screamed to leave. And they looked right through you, like you were air, like you were a phase, like you didn't bleed just to keep the light on in their darkness. And now they've moved on, like you never existed, laughing with new people, posting fake smiles, pretending they didn't break someone who would have given them the world. That's what eats you alive. Not missing them, but realizing they never missed you, because they never actually had the depth to appreciate what you were. You weren't just love, you were loyalty. You weren't just presence, you were protection. And they threw it away like it was disposable. So you sit in the silence, blaming yourself, trying to figure out where you failed. But here's the truth, and it's gonna hurt. You didn't. You didn't fail. You loved right. They just didn't recognize gold because they were used to playing with rust. And now you rebuild, not to prove anything, not to flex, not to post it on social media so they see you smiling. You rebuild because you owe it to yourself. You rebuild because the pain carved space inside you that needs filling, not with distraction, but with purpose. You get up, not because it stopped hurting, but because staying down ain't an option anymore. You show up for yourself the way you always showed up for them. You treat your silence like a sanctuary. You stop letting guilt drag you back to places where your soul suffocated. You understand that peace isn't just absence of chaos. It's cutting off access to it. That means some people are done. For good. No more second chances. No more, maybe they changed. No more revisiting old wounds just to see if they still bleed. You owe it to your future to stop watering the graveyards of your past. You owe it to your own damn soul to stop romanticizing the people who taught you pain more than they ever taught you love. Let them go. Let them live with what they lost. Because you're not broken. You're becoming. And the ones who truly see you, they'll never need to be reminded twice. They won't treat your love like a backup plan. They won't vanish when it gets real. They'll hold you like they've been starving for something honest, but you can't meet them if you're still dragging ghosts. So stop looking over your shoulder. Stop checking who's watching, who's liking, who's lurking. They see you. Trust me, they see you. They just hope you don't see you. Because the moment you do, the second you realize what kind of power you carry, it's over for them. That's what they fear. Not your anger, not your success, but your awareness. Because a person who's aware is a person who's untouchable. You can't play someone who sees the game. You can't manipulate someone who finally found peace in walking away. And you're waking up, slowly, but fully. You're not chasing anymore. You're not begging anymore. You're not waiting for people to come back and fix what they broke. You're cleaning the mess with bare hands and gritted teeth. That's strength. That's the type of resilience they'll never understand, because they never had to rebuild from the ashes of someone else's fire. But you did. And now you wear the burns like armor. No more what ifs, no more maybes. From here on out, it's only forward. And if they look back and wonder what happened to the person who once loved them unconditionally, tell them he woke up. You know what's funny? You were the safest place they ever had, and they still treated you like a threat. You were the storm shelter, the calm in their chaos, the one who held it down while everything around them burned. And instead of protecting that, they set you on fire. Like your patience was a weakness. Like your love had no limit. Like you were a backup plan, not the whole damn plan. And now they sit in rooms with people who don't know their truth, pretending like they never had it better, smiling, acting whole. But deep down, they know they lost someone they'll never replace. And it haunts them. Not in loud ways, no. In silence, in the still moments. When the world quiets down and the masks come off, that's when your ghost shows up. That's when your name crawls back into their mind like a whisper they can't shut out. Because you weren't just another person. You were a mirror. And mirrors make people uncomfortable when they don't like what they see. You reflected their flaws, their fears, their failures, and rather than face that, they ran. because cowards run. And then they call you difficult for refusing to be treated like an afterthought. Let them run. Let them spin their version of the story. Because the day will come when they realize you weren't the villain. You were the lesson. And lessons, they don't leave. They scar. You ever think about how much energy you spent proving yourself? Trying to be understood? Trying to be chosen? That was never your job. You twisted yourself into knots just to be seen, while they wore blindfolds and called it boundaries. You explained your intentions, your feelings, your every move, while they kept secrets like trophies. That wasn't love. That was survival. That was you begging to matter to someone who only showed up when it benefited them. And the worst part? You still defended them. To yourself. To others. You painted their actions in prettier colors than they deserved. Gave excuses for their absences. Lied to your own heart just to justify staying. That's not weakness. That's depth. That's what happens when someone with a loyal soul loves someone with a hollow one. You tried to fill them. Tried to fix them. Tried to love them so hard they'd finally see their own worth. But it was never yours to fix. It was never your weight to carry. You gave them love, and they gave you questions. You gave them effort, and they gave you confusion. And now that you're gone, now that your energy is focused on healing, they feel it. Oh, trust me, they feel it. Not because they miss you, but because you stopped fueling the illusion that they were good people. And that's a hard mirror to face. But you're still standing. Broken? Maybe. Bruised? Definitely. But not defeated. Because you've got something they'll never have. Conscience. You've got heart. You've got soul. You've got the kind of weight in your presence that can't be mimicked or replaced. And that's why you'll win. Not overnight, not with fire and fury, but with quiet, consistent evolution. While they stay stuck in patterns, you'll be building empires. While they chase validation, you'll be finding peace. And when they finally look up, hoping to see you waiting like before, all they'll find is silence. Cold, empty, final. Because the moment you saw your own worth, the second you realized your love was a privilege, not a given, that's when you became untouchable. You don't chase. You don't beg. You become. And what you're becoming, that's what will make them regret every second they thought you were easy to lose. They won't tell you this, but peace comes with casualties. And sometimes the first thing you have to kill is the version of you that tolerated everything just to keep the people around you comfortable. That version of you who stayed quiet when your soul was screaming. The one who kept giving even after it was obvious they were only taking. That version who forgave out of fear, who loved out of habit, who stayed just to avoid the pain, of starting over. That version had to die, because he was built on survival, not strength. He was built on hope, not facts. And facts don't lie. Facts say they didn't care the way you did. Facts say they didn't show up when it mattered. Facts say you were alone in that relationship, even when they were right beside you. And the hardest part? Accepting that the person you were willing to bleed for wasn't even willing to offer a bandage. That's where the rage begins. That's where the sadness sharpens its teeth. But that's also where the rebirth happens. When you finally stop waiting for them to become who they promised, and you start becoming who you need. And it's not about hate. It's about awareness. It's about seeing things for what they are instead of what you wanted them to be. You wanted love, real love, the kind that stays, the kind that fights with you, not against you, the kind that shows up in the silence, in the struggle, in the realness. But what you got was manipulation dressed as affection, attention dressed as intention, presence without commitment, words without action. You saw the best in them, and they used it to distract you from the worst in them. They didn't love you. They loved your light, your effort, your healing energy. They loved how you made them feel, but they never asked how you felt. They never checked if your soul was running low. They were so busy drinking from your cup. They never asked if it was overflowing or if it was bone dry. And when you finally needed them, silence, ghosts, excuses. That's the moment you realize it's more. They were never yours. They were just there to teach you what you never want to feel again. Now your silence isn't empty. It's earned. It's not weakness. It's wisdom. It's not retreat. It's preparation. You're not isolating to hide. You're isolating to heal. Because healing isn't pretty. It's not self-care Sundays and motivational quotes. It's crying at 3 a.m. because you finally admitted you deserved better. It's unfollowing people you once loved because peace is more important than nostalgia. It's sitting alone on the floor, surrounded by memories that no longer serve you, and choosing to let them go. That's healing. That's war. And that's what you're winning. Every damn day you wake up and choose yourself. Not because you stopped loving them, but because you finally started loving you. They don't get to come back. Not now. Not ever. Because the door they walked through doesn't exist anymore. You didn't just move on. You leveled up. You didn't just survive. You transformed. And if they see you now, they wouldn't even recognize the soul they once broke. Because the new you, the reborn you, he doesn't beg, he doesn't chase, he doesn't explain, he just moves, quietly, powerfully, like a ghost they can't touch, but will always feel. You were a home they burned down, and now they're cold, wandering through people who feel like strangers, wondering why nothing feels like you. That's your justice. That's your closure. That's the price they pay when someone real walks away.